Hello everyone and welcome back to another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode review. Today we are taking a look at Season 7, Episode 2, Know Your Onions. Another one of S.H.I.E.L.D's various really weird episode names. So that's I always find it interesting, the names of episodes of TV shows. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of course applies to this, but other TV shows that I watch apply to this too, where it's like, where do they come up with the name for some of these episodes? I feel like, they come up, they write these episodes out and they just go, this is Season 7, Episode 2, we'll figure out a name later, and then they go on and then they come back to it later. It's like, what should the name of this episode be? We can't name it this because that would give away part of the plot, so we kind of have to name it something a little more generic. Hold on, what was that old-timey saying that Patton Oswalt used? No, that gal knows her onions. Okay, that's the name of the episode. Know Your Onions. There we go. I feel like S.H.I.E.L.D. does that a lot, where they just kind of have this random quote that doesn't really have much to do with anything of the episode, and that's the name of the episode. It's a little weird. It's not the weirdest name of a TV episode I've ever seen, but it's up there in terms of weird names for episode of TV. I think the number one weirdest name is probably the Winkanthu job from Star Wars Rebels, just because it's a Star Wars name, so obviously it's very weird. So, I mean, you look at that and you're like, how do you even pronounce that? So, yeah, so this episode, so last week I said that, there wasn't too much to talk about with the first episode in terms of plot, because, we were getting the news story started, and that next week we would have more to talk about. I was correct. There is a lot to talk about with this episode. So let's go ahead and get started into it. So, obviously it picks up right where the last episode left off. They end up getting that Hydra lady back to Kanak's little speakeasy, and Simmons arrives and she has to operate to remove the bullet. So this was a fun moment because, right off the bat, what did he call her? I can't remember exactly what Kanak was calling Simmons. But it's the first one was like this dame or what, and she says, "I'm not a dame, I'm a doctor." It's like those were a couple fun little moments where he was using the old timey terminology to refer to women, and then she kept, it's like, I'm not a this, I'm a that, and so I mean, maybe a little on the nose, but it's like, it works. Simmons is very no nonsense nowadays, so it works for her character. If this was Season 1 Simmons, it might feel a little out of place, but that Simmons has changed and grown so much over the course of the show that I can really buy her, saying things like that. And so, as with all my reviews, the topic of conversation is just going to be all over the place. But I want to talk about Simmons for a second. So it was mentioned a couple times last episode. It was mentioned a couple times this episode. It's like, oh man, you've perfected time travel. You've modified the Zephyr. You've built all this stuff. It's like, how long did it take you to do this? A considerable amount of time. That was mentioned a couple times last episode. Enoch said that again. It's like, it has been a considerable amount of time. It's like it's been mentioned a couple times now. So I'm thinking to myself, it's like, is Simmons like over 100 years old or something at this point, but then they're using some sort of alien technology to extend her lifespan and keep her young or something like that? It's like, has it been like decades, but she's aging slower or something thanks to some sort of gadget or alien something or other? It's like, that would be interesting, because they're being so cryptic with that it has to be going somewhere. So I'm curious if we get a Doctor Who type twist reveal that it's like, oh, she's been working on her own for 100 years. She hasn't seen Fitz in 100 years because they've been having to keep separate. But they're both still young because they're using some sort of alien tech, or maybe this Simmons is an LMD like Coulson. And the original Simmons died a long time ago or something like that. So I don't know. That could be interesting. So we'll see where that goes. But I have a feeling that we're going to be in for one of those twist type things. It's like, oh, it has been a long time. So yeah. So My dad and I called it immediately whenever Simmons removed the bullet from the Hydra lady, the lady in red. That's actually a better name to call her because I'm not sure about the character name, so we'll call her the lady in red. When Simmons removes the bullet from the lady in red, and there's that shot sitting on the bar, and she drops it in there. I'm like, okay, Kanak's drinking that. And my dad and I kind of said that in two different ways at about the same time. It's like, okay, Kanak's going to end up drinking that. And it was like, at first we thought it was going to be accidentally, but as we know, it turned out to be on purpose. So so that was, it was like the way the shot was resting on that, and the fact that it deliberately showed us that's like, okay, yep, I see where this is going. Someone's going to be drinking that, probably going to be Kanak. So let's see here. So Deke, so Deke, Mac, and the young Freddie Malik. They're on the run from the Chronicoms. They end up pulling over and changing out of their fancy dress attire into more bootlegger type clothes, and they end up hitching a ride on a train to a shipyard that's off a ways away. So this is probably the only plot hole that I really found in the episode that I thought was interesting, where the lady in red mentions like, though they're on a train, you won't be able to catch them unless you can fly. And then it's like, aha, but we can fly. And of course the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were able to get there very, very quickly. How did the Chronicoms get there very, very quickly? All they had was like a 1931 truck. They had a 1931 Ford truck, and they managed to catch up. I mean, they were a couple minutes behind. No. They got there before S.H.I.E.L.D. did. Did they use their own spaceship that they've been using to jump through the time waves with, and we just didn't see it? Because the Chronicoms got there very, very quickly, and for all we know, they just had a truck. So I suppose that lady could have been lying, but I don't know. I'm just gonna guess that they used their time ship and got there quickly, and we just didn't see it. But I was left questioning and rubbing my head and scratching my head about that. It's like, I don't think they had the capabilities to get there that fast. I mean, they're also robots, so I don't know. Maybe they were able to just run really super fast, like Quicksilver level fast or something. I don't know. But that was a little, how did they get there that fast? It's like, if it were two other Chronicoms, then okay, but no, it was the same two cop Chronicoms we've been seeing, at the end of last season and of course the beginning of this season. So it's like, okay, not sure how you boys got there, but I'll go with it. I won't really complain. So I was left questioning that, but whatever. So yeah, it's interesting how they're kind of tying all of this back into the MCU after the last kind of 2 seasons almost had very limited connections to the MCU. I touched on this a little bit last week, but not much. So, obviously, Season 5 tried to tie into Infinity War, but with the way that the season was going, where it was end of the world level threat, and it was a timeline where they were trying to stop the world from exploding, and as we know from Infinity War, that's not what happens. It's that was all confusing. It's like, okay, are they in? Because when they got back from the future, gotta get back in time. When they got back from the future, did they then enter a new timeline that's different from the original timeline that they were in? It's like, was the future that they went to then a different timeline, and then they went to that timeline's past, so the events of Infinity War happened, but they happened a little differently, to where maybe this is an alternate reality, alternate timeline where the Avengers win in Wakanda and Thanos is stopped and the snap never happens, because the snap is never mentioned in Season 6 at all. And it doesn't seem like that half the world's population is gone. So it seems like that they're in a different timeline there. So that's all confusing. And then Season 6 just didn't mention anything else in the MCU at all, with the exception of stuff that had already happened in S.H.I.E.L.D. history. So that was all a little bit confusing, a little bit weird. And then now they're trying to go back and tie it directly more into MCU history that no matter what timeline they're in, they can still maneuver around there and not cause little hiccups or inconsistencies in the canon. So one way that they're doing it, so I mean, they could now be in the prime timeline again, in the main movie timeline again, or they could still be in an alternate timeline. There may be no way to get back to the original timeline or whatever, but now they're definitely in a timeline where it seems like that the events of Captain America: The First Avenger are on track to happen. So because we have the Erskine formula at its very earliest days. And so it was really cool to hear those names being thrown around where they say Abraham Erskine and Johann Schmidt and Hydra and all this other talk. And then of course Kanak going is like, you guys are talking like you're out of the funny papers or something. And then of course the best part of the episode to me was when they had to bring Kanak along, where he drink and he's like, I can't believe I took a bullet for you guys, because he had to drink the bullet. And then my dad and I did a little high five. It's like, yep, we called that. And then then they have to get on the Zephyr and go to pick up their agents, because they now have a time limit. They now have a ticking clock where they only have 15 minutes to get back on the Zephyr, or else it'll time jump with or without them, which sets up the stakes pretty high. So that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun seeing Kanak tag along, and they just give him a Tommy gun, and then he's shooting at the Chronocoms. And of course, him being on the Zephyr, where he's all blindfolded and everything, because you couldn't show them where it was and everything. And then he's like, oh, it's like I my joint's pretty fancy, so I don't think I'm going to be too impressed by you. What is this? And he's just completely blown away. You could Patton Oswalt. Every TV show needs more Patton Oswalt. I think Patton Oswalt is such a joy in everything I've ever seen him in. Ratatouille is arguably my favorite Pixar movie. He's just so much fun in Ratatouille. He's just a fun. It seems like he's having fun in everything he's in, which is nice. So to have him in S.H.I.E.L.D. as much as we have had him. It's like, because when he showed up in season 1, that was a big surprise. It's like, oh, sweet, we're getting Patton Oswalt in this. And then he's popped up here and there. He's not in every season, but he pops up frequently enough. And so then now he's back in season 7. So his reaction of, I'm in a spaceship or whatever, was so good. It's like, he's a great actor. He sold that so well, of the man from 1931 trying to figure out what the heck is going on with all this space, this futuristic space tech stuff. It's like that was a pretty perfect realization, where he's like, the confusion and then acceptance and trying to figure things out. Honestly, I think they did a better job with that than what Doctor Who does with, it was essentially a new companion walks into the TARDIS for the first time type moment. Where it's bigger on the inside. I think they've done it better than some of the companions on Doctor Who have done it. Because most of the companions in Doctor Who have always been from the 21st. Well, with the exception of in the modern series, we're not talking about the classic series. But even then, even going back to the classic series, these are companions from the 20th or 21st century most of the time. So it's like, they're like, spatial dimension rearranging, and it's like it's bigger on the inside. It's like they get a grasp on it pretty quickly. Bringing someone in from another time where he's from the 1930s. I feel like the shock and surprise and trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I think Patton Oswalt did that better than some of the companions in Doctor Who, which is interesting. It's interesting, because Doctor Who's gotten a couple shout outs on the show in the past. I think the executive producers and writers on the show are fans of the show, because they've had Simmons mention it a couple times. Like in season 1, going back to Patton Oswalt, it's like if you were, when they were doing that whole interrogation thing, Patton Oswalt said, if you're stuck on an island, what's the one thing you take with you? And then Simmons goes, the TARDIS, which, good answer, because it can travel throughout all of time and space. So you take that with you to a desert island, you're getting off the desert island. So, and then, it's been, so they've sprinkled in season 5 even, I think she said Alan Z, which is famously a 10th Doctor thing. So now we here kind of have our own little companion walks into the TARDIS moment with Patton Oswalt's character. So that's fun. And then him going, oh, it's one of those electric men. What's a robot? He's a robot. And then there's just that gaping gash on Enoch's head. So Agent May, I'm worried about Agent May. She's sort of kind of acting like, and I wonder if they're gonna actually go there, or if it's going to be like, oh, it's just complicated. She woke up too early, so her brain isn't done reformatting because it was dead for like that 5 minutes or whatever. So she's a little out of it right now. I wonder if they're going to do that, or if they're going to go something a little more sinister with that. What if the spirit of the villain from last season is actually inside May now, and that's why she's acting a little bit cold. But then May herself is still trying to fight off that influence. So yeah, she's wanting. So she wants to go out there and help the team, but then the spirit of the villain from last season also wants to go out there and get revenge on the team. But then which is why she was just so able to brutally beat up Enoch. It's like I don't think she ever would have been able to beat up Enoch, or defeat Enoch. But she did a pretty good job at beating him up with that big gash in his head. Props to the props department with that effect, because it looked it looked pretty real. It looked like that was an actual gaping flesh wound in Enoch's head, and then you could see the robot skull underneath. That was a good effect. They didn't get up close to it. They didn't rest on it long, but it was in enough shots to where it looked believable. So props to them for a job well done. That was a very good effect. So LMD Coulson shows up, and then actual May is able to take back over, and then she goes back into the healing tank or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with May. There's something going on with several of the characters this season in terms of, are they really what they seem to be? Simmons, I'm worried about. Coulson, of course, is an LMD now, so how could that affect things going forward? And then now May. So it's kind of like how are these characters going to end up by the end of the season? It'll be interesting. So, and Daisy. Daisy, she's not quite getting the whole time travel thing, ripples, not tidal waves, and all of that, because she's just straight up saying, Deke, you gotta kill Malik. You gotta kill Freddie Malik, because you're gonna save a whole lot of lives in the... Daisy, you can't do that. We're trying to save the timeline here, and if you really want to do that, then you're on the Chronicom side. Then Shield is done before it starts, and the Chronicom's like, you've lost the plot here, Daisy. Come on, don't get distracted. That's of course Deke doesn't have the willpower to do it, because he is just this kid right now. There's it is possible that they could change his mind, of course. With Deke pointing the gun at him, and everything, it's like, I think that really is kind of the one, and then running into Kanak, I think that really is kind of the thing that pushes him over the edge, because then Bear McCreary's Hydra theme comes back in as he gets in that car. I love Bear McCreary's Hydra theme. I wish it had popped up in the movies whenever Hydra had shown up, here or there after Winter Soldier. Because Hydra, I suppose the Hydra quote-unquote theme in Winter Soldier was the Winter Soldier's theme. It didn't really necessarily, Hydra itself didn't really have too much of a theme in the first Avenger either. So the fact that Bear McCreary gave Hydra a recognizable theme, those couple little dun 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 dun, is very, very recognizable, very much like, yeah, that's the little motif for Hydra. I kind of wish it had popped up in other places, but as we know with the MCU, the composers don't always play nice with one another. That's why Iron Man and Thor have 3 completely different musical themes, which is a little bit annoying. But oh well. So yeah, so of course, the episode ends. Enoch misses the bus, or excuse me, the Zephyr. The bus got destroyed in season 2. Haha. Enoch misses the Zephyr. It time jumps, and he is now stranded in 1931, and he's going to have to meet up with the rest of the cast by going the long way around. So, good episode. I really liked it. it's very, I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. has always done this, but it's very clear that this season especially is going to be like one story told over 13 different parts, as opposed to, you know, like here's 2 episodes that tie directly into each other, and then, you know, this next episode is going to take place like a week later, so, you know, so it's another, I mean, that's the way season 1 was. It was like a monster of the week, you know, thing of the week, all these different things, and then slowly the show has become a little more connected, where, you know, each episode feeds on each episode, and, you know, it's like these are all happening within these episodes are happening within a short time frame. I think that's definitely the case with this season. Last season was very much that way too. Season 5 was as well, for the most part. It wasn't until like the later half of the season where they got back to the 21st century where it started to be a little more. I mean, it was still plot developments every week, but, you know, you could tell that maybe there was a little bit of time passing between episodes. Like maybe, you know, there was a week that went on or whatever. But seasons 1 through 4 were very, for the most part, it's like, yeah, here's some, you know, like week to week stuff, and then it's like here's 2 episodes that happen back to back, and then we're back to week stuff. So season 7 obviously very much is going to be like one story told in 13 parts. This is all happening. These events are all happening one after the other. So yeah. So next. I left out the best part where and he doesn't say it once. He doesn't say it once. He says it a total of 2 times. He says it twice. But I wonder if Patton Oswalt requested getting to say this, because I don't know if we're going to get him in other episodes. We may. Who knows? I hope so. But he says, "Oh, this is marvelous." It's like, I see what you did there, because this is based off of Marvel Comics. It's marvelous, and I see what you did there, and that's funny. So it's like, that was kind of a moment. The 4 of us kind of went, we see what you did there. That's funny. So yeah. So now, next episode, we are in the 50s. It looks like. Very, very early S.H.I.E.L.D. now. The Chronicoms are going to be like, okay, we couldn't stop S.H.I.E.L.D. from forming, but maybe we can stop them from really getting started. And they're going to the 50s, and they're running into Daniel Sousa, which is going to be cool, because Agent Carter ended on a cliffhanger, and then it got canceled because ABC wanted their own show with Haley Atwell. It's like, it's like, you know, Agent Carter doesn't have the best views, but, you know, people like them some Haley Atwell, so let's what was the name of that show? Conviction? Or whatever. It's like, yeah, instead of giving Agent Carter a 3rd season, we'll make her do this lawyer show and put on a bad American accent. Actually, it wasn't a bad American accent from the trailers I saw. She actually did a pretty good, convincing American accent. But it's, and then, you know, and then, this show, we're canceling the show after 3 episodes because, like, literally no one is watching it. Not even, you know, the people that were watching Agent Carter were watching it for Agent Carter. They weren't watching it because it's like, it's Haley Atwell. I like that. No, they're watching it because she was playing Agent Carter, because people like Agent Carter. So it's like, so maybe, hopefully, this episode will kind of clear up some of the little dangling plot threads from Agent Carter. It would honestly be really interesting if the guys that shot. It's been a while since I've watched Agent Carter, but there's that agent. He was kind of the jerk stereotype agent. It's like, a woman can't be, you know, an agent in the SSR, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm a jerk, but I'm going to slowly come around over the course of 2 seasons, and I'm going to have this begrudging respect for Agent Carter. And then he's in his hotel room, and he gets shot, and then this things get stolen from him, and he bleeds out in the carpet, and he supposedly dies. Again, that was the cliffhanger. He could have been a thing where the next season opens, and then he's in a hospital, and he's like, I got shot. Where'd the things go? We need to go track it down. But I suppose it's just going to be, he's dead. So yeah, hopefully next episode we'll kind of hopefully deal with some of those dangling plot threads, like maybe those were Chronicoms. Who knows? Because it was one of those shadowy conspiracy. I mean, my guess would have been Hydra. Back when Agent Carter aired, it's like, these are like Hydra agents that are going to infiltrate the early days of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. But who knows? Maybe they were Chronicoms now. It's going to be cool to see if they can tie that stuff in. I'm really excited to see where the rest of the season goes. So yeah, that is my review of Know Your Onions from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I will be back next week with a review of whatever the heck the name of the next episode is going to be. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense than Know Your Onions. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all then. Goodbye.